Good morning to everyone, and I want to thank you for being here at the State University of New York College at Old Westbury. It's a pleasure to welcome you to this gathering for a very important and very special announcement. And before we get started, I want to acknowledge some special guests who are with us today. First of all, the Superintendent of our police, Joe D'Amico, New York State Police. And then, of course, my boss, the lovely lady, superior leader of us all, the Chancellor of the State University of New York, Nancy Zimpher. I never forget where I am and the warmth and love that I've received since I've been here, and that has been at the leadership of many county executives, but none as able and as generous and as open as Ed Mangano. Ed, welcome. It's good to see you. Today's announcement is about saving our community from a drug that is quickly taking the lives of too many of our people, especially our young. And the announcement today is not only about the work that will be done by the police, law enforcement, but it's also about getting families, communities, educators, all of us involved. This is very personal to me, and I'm very grateful to our governor for taking the lead on this. I've seen what this drug can do. I'm older than most people in this room, I'm sorry to say, and happy to say at the same time. But I've been around long enough, and so have some of you, to see the devastation that can come as a result if we don't act quickly. And I'm glad we've learned our lessons. And I'm glad we have this governor who is taking the lead and making sure that we do the right thing. And so this heroin epidemic is something that we need to focus on. And I'm glad to welcome all of you here and to be a part of this special announcement. Thank you, Governor. Thank you very much. And now I'm pleased to introduce once again our leader here on Long Island, our County Executive, Ed Mangano.
Thank you, Reverend Doctor. This was some wonderful introduction. I wish my mom was here. But it's certainly an honor to join with you all today as we collectively declare war on the heroin epidemic. I've had the honor of partnering with Governor Cuomo and the state on numerous law enforcement initiatives. And just a few of the prescription drug abuse and texting while driving campaigns. And we continue today supporting the governor and the state and working collectively with our local law enforcement to continue our fight against the heroin epidemic. Over the past few years, Long Island has seen a dramatic increase in heroin usage and overdoses. This drug is eating its way through our community, destroying families, killing our loved ones, robbing young people of their future. This is why the governor's approach, attacking the problem from multiple angles, is so crucial. In Nassau County, my administration, along with the district attorney, are fighting heroin with an aggressive education, awareness, and enforcement program. Coupled with our successful Citizen Heroin Prevention Task Force and Prescription Drug Abuse Task Force, and our notable Narcan training program, where we train citizens to administer this life-saving drug. Governor Cuomo's announcement today will help strengthen our fight against the heroin epidemic. We need to continue to educate our children on this life-threatening danger that this drug presents. Heroin here is a problem for every community. No community is exempt. What we need to do is continue to work together, and it's my honor to support the governor in the actions that he takes today, which will help government and local law enforcement around the state crack down on heroin distribution. This epidemic must be stopped. And these are the actions that will not only protect our communities, but prevent future generations from getting hooked on heroin. I want to thank the governor, the superintendent, the chancellor, and Reverend Dr. Butts for being here today and joining in this announcement and for dedicating state resources to combating this epidemic. The governor has been a great partner for us here in Nassau County, and we're thrilled to partner with you, Governor, today. And now it is my honor to introduce Mary Elizabeth Osterman. She's our director here in the County of EO and Compliance for Nassau County. But she's here today because she's a mother who tragically lost her 21-year-old daughter, Emily, to drugs. It's my honor to introduce Mary Elizabeth Osterman. Thank you.
Wow, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mary Elizabeth Osterman, and I'm not really a paid public speaker, so please bear with me. I'm speaking to you today as a mom. I'm honored to speak with you today about my experience with the current opiate crisis that is destroying so many lives here on Long Island, New York State, and indeed throughout the country. In December, my 21-year-old daughter, Emily, thinking that she was snorting heroin, died of an overdose of the prescription drug fentanyl. Emily was much like your children, much like you if you're a college student. She had a bright future. She was a responsible, punctual, self-reliant, creative, kind, and oftentimes hilarious person, a bon vivant, who loved and lived life to its fullest. She was never involved with drugs or alcohol in high school. She didn't smoke cigarettes. She was an honor student and a band geek who played first chair clarinet. She came from an intact family of 2 caring professional parents, an adoring young brother, an assortment of pets that she doted and cared for. So you might ask, as I did and all of us who love Emily, what the heck happened? What was that all about? And that's the kicker. Nothing. Nothing. Just youthful experimentation. Bored and lonely, after her father's death, Emily decided to try prescription opiates left over and that she found in our home. She thought it would be sexy to experiment with drugs. But it only took a matter of weeks for Emily's addiction to progress from Percocet and Vicodin to cocaine, soft, to crack, hard, to heroin. A matter of weeks for the old, reliable friends to be overlooked in favor of kids who supplied drugs to pay for their own addiction and their own problems. A matter of weeks before anyone could see the weight loss, the trips out to the car at night, to her girlfriend's house who forgot a nail polish at 10 or 11 o'clock after she finished her shift in the local Dunkin' Donuts where she was a responsible employee, and to see that she was isolating herself more and more in her room. When I confronted Emily about missing pills in the house and her odd behaviors at the end of October, Emily gratefully went into a residential treatment program for 1 month, which was 3 months after she first started taking drugs. She was grateful to be there, and she went happily. There was no kicking, screaming, denial. She was so happy that we had figured it out. She appeared to be doing everything right when she came back from her 30 days in rehab. She attended Narcotics Anonymous and was trying to make 90 meetings in 90 days. She got herself a sponsor. She attended an intensive outreach program for drug addiction. She had never actually taken the first step of her 12-step program, however, which is that she admitted she was powerless over the drug. She never really had gotten there. She confided in me when she came out of rehab that taking opiates opened for her a Pandora's box, and she did not know how to close it. She did not realize that the physical damage that the opiates did to her brain would act like a riptide and carry away her sanity and ability to make rational and healthy decisions for herself. After attending a family group therapy program on Saturday, December 21st, we rushed home so that Emily could get to her job at Dunkin' Donuts at 4 p.m. I called into her room. "I'm going out to run some errands, honey. I'll see you later. Have a good shift." She said, "Okay, Mom, I love you. Bye." And when I returned from those errands, I found her in her room, unconscious and apparently dead. So today, Governor Cuomo is taking action to help families like mine and young people like Emily who have lost so much to drug addiction, actions that will prevent future suffering. This is the approach we've been waiting for, Governor, and I'm so excited to be part of this announcement. I am hopeful that if this message gets to just one parent, to one person considering using today, it is a profound step in the right direction. And it is now my honor and my privilege to introduce the Governor of the great state of New York, the Honorable Andrew Cuomo. Thank you, Governor.
Good afternoon. First, to Mary Elizabeth Osterman, we can't thank you enough for sharing that story. Any parent in the room, I'm sure, can feel your pain and understand what you went through. Probably one of the most difficult situations in life to deal with is the loss of a child. It is unnatural. It's not the way things are supposed to happen. But I'm sure every person in this room joins me in applauding you for taking that pain and taking that negativity and turning it into a positive and finding the strength in yourself to share that message and to take that energy and to help other people. And we thank you for it. Also, let's take a moment. We are joined by men and women of law enforcement who put their lives on the line every day to keep us safe, and let's show them our appreciation and give them a round of applause. It's a pleasure to be back at this magnificent institution once again with its inspirational leader, Dr. Calvin Butts. It's a pleasure to be with you, Doctor. Thank you very much. And I join with the doctor. You have an extraordinary county executive in Nassau County, as you know. And so much of what the state of New York does is premised on partnerships with local governments. And in many ways, the state government can only be as good as the local government is. And in Nassau County, we have an extraordinary partner. Whatever the challenge is, it can be hurricanes, can be storms, whatever it is. Nassau County has always been extraordinary. And it's been led by an extraordinary leader, County Executive Ed Mangano. Pleasure to be with you, sir. And then you heard Dr. Butts compliment his boss, SUNY Chancellor Nancy Zimpher, because he is a smart, smart man, and he happens to be correct. To the magnificent Chancellor of the SUNY education system, Nancy Zimpher. And you will hear from a great superintendent of the state police, Superintendent Joseph D'Amico. Pleasure to be with him also. You heard from Mary Elizabeth the first step in a drug treatment program. First step is admission, is getting past the denial. One of the problems with the drug problem is denial. It's I'm not really addicted. I can stop if I want. And that first step is the hardest, getting past the denial, the admission that you are powerless and you are addicted to the drug, that I have a problem, I am addicted. That is the first step for an individual's treatment. It's also the first step for a collective. As the governor of the state of New York, I'm here to say to you, New York State has a problem with heroin addiction, and it is a growing problem. And it is disproportionate to what's going on in the country. This is a Northeast issue, and it's a New York issue specifically. 1/3 of all the DEA seizures of heroin are done in the state of New York, and the numbers are growing exponentially in a frightening way. 67% increase in the number of seizures of heroin over the past 5 years. Dr. Butts mentioned, well, we've dealt with heroin in the past. We have. 70s, we had a heroin epidemic. This is worse than what we went through before. The heroin is more potent. The heroin is less expensive. You now have $5 bags of heroin. You have $10 bags of heroin. The people who were affected by heroin in the first epidemic were basically older people. They were in their 30s, young people, but on the older spectrum. This heroin addiction is teenagers, high school students, college students predominantly, and getting younger and younger and working its way down. And it is truly frightening. One of the theories is we passed a law in the state of New York a couple of years ago called the I-Stop law, which cut down on the availability of prescription opiates. And because prescription opiates are now harder to get and to buy, it's moved some of that traffic and volume to heroin. Here on Long Island is one of the ground zeros for the heroin epidemic. The numbers on Long Island are frightening. The number of admissions for heroin addiction has doubled from 6,000 to 12,000. The number of deaths from heroin at an all-time record high. 2012, Nassau, 121 deaths from heroin. Suffolk, 120. Highest ever in recorded history. So, it is a problem, and it is a problem that we admit, and it is a problem that we are going to attack on every level that we can attack a problem. And today we're here to announce a comprehensive strategy that has enforcement, education, and emergency response. On the enforcement, on the law enforcement, which is first line of protection, the New York State Police have done a great job fighting narcotics, whatever the narcotic was at the time, heroin in the 60s, crack cocaine in the 80s. They've always been at the forefront. They have a great unit that does narcotics protection. We are going to double the number of troopers who are assigned to that, and we'll have 100 state police who are trained just in heroin and heroin intervention. And Superintendent Joseph D'Amico will be heading that. In terms of education, this is about young people. It's about young people who can be reached through schools. We have the SUNY Chancellor with us today. All the public colleges will have an education effort and a training effort for their teachers, for their law enforcement, to be able to spot signs of heroin addiction. The work that the SUNY Chancellor does will be shared with the private universities, private colleges, so we'll have an effort that goes across colleges. And then in terms of emergency response, if there is one silver lining, as the county executive mentioned, there's a drug called Narcan, which is an anti-overdose drug for heroin, which is luckily proved very effective. If it's administered quickly and correctly, it can save lives, and it has saved lives. So in some ways, this is a miracle drug in a very, very terrible situation. We are going to provide this drug to all emergency responders across the state of New York and train all emergency responders in how to actually administer this drug, Narcan. So as it has saved lives, hopefully we can save more. Here in Nassau County, we'll coordinate with your efforts that are already ongoing and advanced on many of these fronts. But we'll be doing the enforcement, we'll be doing education, and then our emergency responders will be fully equipped and ready. But the last point was the first point mentioned by Dr. Butts. Government can't be the sole solution to solve problems, right? It's not law enforcement's job to solve the heroin addiction for our children. It's not the teacher's job. It's not the first responder's job. It's all of our jobs. It's our job as a citizen, as a parent, as a sister, as a brother, as a neighbor, as a friend. If you know someone, you suspect someone has an issue like this with a drug like heroin, that can kill you. This is nothing to play with. Mary Elizabeth's story, I've heard variations of it over and over again. This is a drug that is so potent and grabs hold of young people so quickly that literally in a matter of weeks, it can accelerate from one bad afternoon of experimentation to death. This is not like drugs we've dealt with in the past. It's even worse than crack with the way it can grab a young person and can take over their life. And the availability of it and the potency of it and the inexpensive nature of it is a deadly combination. So every parent, every citizen, every person in this room, let's take it upon ourselves. It will be solved when we as a society and we as a collective decide to solve it. I think today will be a first step down that road. I thank all of you very much for taking the time to be here. I applaud the Chancellor and the Superintendent for their efforts, the law enforcement for theirs, Dr. Butts, County Executive, and again, Mary Elizabeth. Thank you very much for having me today.
Well, the show is not quite done. I want to talk with you about how in the world we are going to address the challenge that the governor has given us. So I'm thrilled to be here at SUNY Old Westbury. President Butts is just a fabulous partner, and we support each other. And we also have in our charge about 465,000 students who, with the governor's help, and with the protection of the state police of this great state, and with the local knowledge and work that we are going to do, we can be successful in this campaign. We shouldn't have to say that this holistic and comprehensive approach is necessary, but the growing and dangerous presence of heroin in our communities and on our campuses is what we're talking about today. So we're proud to work with the governor, and we're proud to work with the City University of New York and with the independent colleges across the state in really creating that kind of environment that our young people deserve and need. It is, in fact, our highest priority. So, Mary Elizabeth, many parents give their Emilys to our campuses, and our goal is to protect them. So how in the world are we going to extend our services to combat this problem? Well, first of all, in a campus like Old Westbury and our many campuses where we have residence halls, we have trained resident assistants. Some of you knew them as RAs. We're going to train them specifically in possible prescription drug and heroin abuse, looking for the warning signs. Secondly, for students who need our help, we're going to expand our hotline and text line for students who can easily get help, and we're going to ask all of our students through a no-fault reporting process to tell us what the governor said. Remember, if you see something, say something, and it's really, really needed in drug prevention. And then we have a cadre of university police, a number of whom are here today. We're going to work with the state police to do law enforcement that can give us the best practices in recognizing the signs. And immediate training of our university police, our health centers, our counselors, to be more cognizant of what the symptoms are. This is our responsibility. We are public servants. We guide and guard the children of the parents of New York. So we know that this addiction threatens the relationships within families, and across friendships. So that's how we're going to attack the problem. So our partnership with the governor in this and many things that we do in the state of New York is enabled, quite frankly, by our partnership with the New York State Police. So it's my great privilege to introduce the superintendent of the New York State Police, and that's Superintendent D'Amico. Superintendent?
Good afternoon. Thank you, Dr. Zimfer. Very happy to be here in Nassau County with the governor for this great announcement today. I'd absolutely be remiss if I didn't take a second to thank and recognize Chief Steve Skrnicki and the men and women of the Nassau County Police Department for the great job they do for all of us. Proud to be a partner in law enforcement out here. Why don't we give some applause? In recent years, the New York State Police and all of our law enforcement partners across the state have seen heroin use, heroin sales, and related heroin and opioid drug overdoses rise to levels that we've never seen before. Heroin, as you've heard, has made a resurgence in our communities, and it's more potent, addictive, and deadly than ever before. This is so much stronger and so much more of a problem than the heroin we saw in the 60s and 70s and 80s. We're seeing more and more of our young people who, because they're no longer able to obtain pills at easily and cheaply, turn to heroin because it is out there. And the more demand there is, the more it's available. Because it's such a powerfully addictive drug, our younger users and our new users are getting hooked, as you've heard, very quickly, weeks, months. And while we're concerned about young people, because that's really the trend that we're seeing, we're also seeing other people of all sorts of ages addicted to heroin and in particular pills. The state police, working alongside our partners in law enforcement, are actively developing narcotics intelligence every day, investigating cases, and taking down large-scale heroin drug distribution rings all across our state. We're continually training our troopers in detection and interdiction techniques and also in undercover activity so we can stay ahead of the trends for drug use and drug sales. And recently, we've been equipping our community narcotics teams, our CNET units, with specially trained canines who are devoted to detecting heroin, drugs being shipped through postal and shipping facilities, trucking, and transported across our roadways. But for all of us, there's still much more for us to do here as a team, not just law enforcement. And today, the governor is providing all of us with the tools that we need to better address this problem. You know, oftentimes our police officers, our deputies, our troopers are the first on the scene, and being equipped with Narcan, it's also known as naloxone, will save lives. And giving it to all of our first responders, our fire professionals, and EMS people, there's no doubt we will save lives with this drug. And as far as giving the state police 100 additional troopers, that's a tremendous effort towards attacking this heroin problem. We do work in so many local communities around the state, and every day we've had to tell people, you know, we'll get to you, we'll get to you. This will allow us to go out, reach into our local communities, work with our local partners, and be so much more effective at combating the heroin. So on behalf of all law enforcement, I thank Governor Cuomo for these resources, for his leadership, for his support, and for his commitment to the state police mission of protecting all New Yorkers and keeping our communities safe. And thank you again, Governor.
So the fight to protect our state and our children continues, but with a good general out front and our governor, the backup of wonderful state police, and an entire community of educators led by our chancellor, and of course by all of you throughout Nassau County and throughout the state of New York. Thank you so much for being here. God bless.